right. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Dr. Pat. Well, at least I screwed up early.
The Dr. Patter Day.
That's the first one I've screwed up. I'm surprised it took me this long. All right, let's do this again. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Dr. Saturday podcast. My name is Graham Watson. I'm here with Nick Bromberg, and we are the editors of Dr. Saturday, the college football blog on the Yahoo Network. Thanks for joining us. We got lots and lots of football to talk about this week as we head down the stretch of the season. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I think the biggest thing that everybody's talking about, and I think this is what everybody is going to be talking about week in, week out, from here on out, the college football playoff rankings. Some big shakeups this week, Nick.
You know, this is the week that we need to break out the Jim Mora and playoffs because if there was ever a week that we were going to have this interesting, I can't figure out which quote unquote controversy is the best right now, because if there was ever a week of the changing criteria or the changing jumbling of the rankings, this is it. I mean, Saturday was definitely moving day, and I think both of us were surprised as to how the moving ended up shaking out.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I see I've been getting a lot of stuff about the college football playoff rankings and the committee being judged and people saying it's politics that affects it and people are holding Florida State to a higher standard and this and that. Honestly, folks, whether Florida State is number 2 or number 3 is totally irrelevant.
Right.
I mean, they're still going to play the same game. The teams are going to be the same. It's just whether they're wearing the home uniform or the road one. I mean, let's be honest. It's in a neutral site, so it doesn't really matter whether they're number 2 or number 3. But the big one, the one that everybody has been talking about, the one that creates a lot of controversy and I think has really come into question the way the committee grades and evaluates teams, is this whole TCU Baylor mess. Quite honestly, I'm on the side of the committee. Baylor's body of work is not nearly as good as TCU's. It's just not. I know TCU's big-time non-conference opponent was Minnesota, and people were poo-pooing that, but look where Minnesota is. Minnesota has a chance to win their side of the conference, and play for the Big Ten title. So, win against Minnesota at all. And if Minnesota beats Ohio State this weekend, that win looks even better. So I see that the tough games against SMU and Lamar and whoever else Baylor played in the non-conference season. I can understand where you'd make that argument that those are some pretty tough games. But let's be honest, Baylor played a cake non-conference schedule, and they're kind of getting punished for it.
See, here's where I really struggle with this is, does the head-to-head win, how much should that over compensate for the lack of strength of schedule? Because the playoff was announced in 2012, correct?
Yeah.
So theoretically, that gives Baylor less than 2 years to get out of any non-conference games that it has. And teams that weren't in this first year of the playoff weren't going to sit there and scramble because they didn't know what the parameters really were going to be for consideration selection, and you're not going to sit there and immediately go, man, since we're having a playoff, strength of schedule is going to be huge now, and immediately ditch all the games that you are paying these teams to play, and go find different opponents. So I think if college football was strictly a year-to-year scheduling, we did that when you didn't have these schedules that were set, in 2022, with these future games, and teams picked who they were going to play in the non-conference, every October or November of the previous year. I'm more inclined to, crap on Baylor for that. But given the nature of college football non-conference scheduling, I'm really struggling with how much we should hold that against them.
I think they're becoming a cautionary tale at this point. I think that, we didn't know exactly what the criteria was going to be. And people, one of the main questions that was getting asked to Jeff Long, the chairman of the College Football Playoff Committee, on Saturday night during his teleconference with the media, was, is the committee sending a message? And he's like, the committee's not in the business of sending messages. Our rankings send messages, and you can interpret those however you want, but the committee itself is not in the business of sending messages. I'm okay with that. I mean, I get what he's saying there, but it is plain to see that there is a little bit of a scheduling message here. There is a little bit of a quote unquote body of work message here. And the head to head, I understand why Baylor people are upset, because they feel like they beat TCU head to head. They should get credit for that. And here's the catch-22. Here's the rub. And I wrote about this on Wednesday. The catch-22 is this, and Jeff Long said as much. TCU has 2 top 25 wins. Baylor has 1 top 25 win, and that's against TCU. They don't get credit for the Oklahoma win because Oklahoma is now out of the top 25. Similarly, TCU doesn't get credit for that win either. However, Baylor's loss is to West Virginia, which also fell out of the top 25, whereas TCU's loss is to a team in the top 10, Baylor. So Baylor is kind of getting punished, A, for beating Oklahoma, and B, for beating TCU, because TCU's loss over a top 10 team is valued more than Baylor's win over a top 10 team. That's just it's kind of weird how that math is working for the committee.
Yeah, it's a very odd thing, and what also too, it's very weird how it's working now for Baylor, and then we are going to see it potentially work for Baylor here in the future. That if Kansas State beats West Virginia, which Baylor has to hope that Kansas State beats West Virginia. Well, again, as I say this, I don't know. The possibility of Baylor moving up ahead of TCU is on the table, as we know, or getting very close to TCU. We know it's on the table. Mm-hmm. That said, theoretically, the way it seems like Baylor could do that is by beating a very strong Kansas State team, a Kansas State team that is undefeated from outside the TCU loss and the Auburn loss to that game the last week of the season. Mm-hmm. But does Kansas State beating West Virginia and potentially beating them handily in Morgantown, what Baylor did not do, does that end up punishing Baylor more than a win over a 2-loss Kansas State team helps Baylor?
Yeah, I think I just think that I don't know. I mean, TCU, here's what TCU needs to do. TCU's got kind of the cake schedule. They've got Kansas this weekend, then they got Texas on Thanksgiving, and then they've got Iowa State to end out the year the same day that everybody's playing their championship games, I think December 6th. They need to pound these teams, especially Texas, because Texas might be the most valuable, the most dangerous game on that schedule, because Texas's defense, for all of Texas's faults, its defense has played pretty well this year. So if TCU can light up Texas, I think they're going to get a lot of credit for that. Here's the other advantage for TCU is that they play this weekend and Baylor does not. Baylor's on a bye this week. So TCU plays Kansas this week. I think the line is like 29 points or something ridiculous, and they need to cover every 29 of those points. They need to punish Kansas. I mean, we're talking like a 40-10 win here, or a 45-10 win here, something like that. And Gary Patterson acknowledged as much the other day when he said, he looks around the country after games and he looks at the scores of games and he knows that each one of the teams is being judged by their scores, by the amount of points they're putting up against some of these, lesser teams. And that's the challenge for TCU right now. Style points do matter. Style points didn't matter when you were being judged by a bunch of computers that didn't get it. They weren't watching you. But now that you have 12 people who are actually watching you and evaluating you and critiquing everything that you're doing, you need to put your Heisman Trophy candidate quarterback on the stage. You need to put your star receiver on the stage. You need to get that great running game going, and you need to show that you are competent enough and you are talented enough to be one of the top 4 representatives in the college football playoff.
Because what was the comment that Jeff Long made after the show on Tuesday, or during the show on Tuesday, that they're not taking into account margin of victory, but they're looking at the final scores of games.
Right.
It's a fine line. You have to handily beat a team without running up the score, apparently, or you have to handily beat a team, but know that running up the score isn't going to. There's, I guess, a law of diminishing returns here.
Yeah,
I don't know where that is, and I think teams don't know where that is. They're going to have to find it. But yeah, it's an
definitely value.
interesting it's an interesting proposition here.
There's definitely value. I mean, because think about what's happening to Florida State. Florida State kind of squeaking by some of these lesser teams, and boom, Oregon jumps them. Again, as we said at the top of the show, it doesn't really matter whether they're 2 or 3, but it's again sending a message. You're in that point where you're getting messages sent that, hey, you are playing a lesser schedule than all these other teams around you. You need to show that you are the dominant team in this conference. And, having to come from behind against North Carolina State, having to come from behind against Louisville, that doesn't necessarily show dominance. It just shows that you have a better team. And we should know that. I mean, we know that they have a better team. I think they need to beat Miami pretty bad this weekend, and I'm not sure that's going to happen. And so I don't find that Florida State's going to drop out of the top 4. I don't see that happening. But man, who knows? With this committee, I don't know what they value, and if Alabama wins, if TCU wins convincingly, if what do you do with a one-loss Mississippi State team? I mean, things could get pretty dicey as we come down the stretch here.
Mm-hmm. It's absolutely fascinating, and what holds the key, I think, here is this, which I'm sure we'll talk about here later. I think the key is really this Mississippi State-Alabama game.
Yeah, no, definitely.
This is a game here where, again, the margin of victory, that law of diminishing returns, is really, really going to come into play if it's a one-sided game in favor of either Mississippi State or Alabama. Probably more so with Alabama winning the game, because then it's going to be, how do we stack up a one-loss Mississippi State team versus TCU and Baylor? Because there's your key right there is what is the best-case scenario for a Big 12 team when it comes to Alabama beating Mississippi State?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you do with Mississippi State at that point, because, at one point, their wins were fantastic. Oh my gosh, they beat all these teams in the top 10. Well, those wins don't look nearly as fantastic now as they did 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. So
Mississippi State and Texas A&M, I mean, and they're tied together, and the reason that's why they look so familiar. Mississippi State and Texas A&M seasons kind of have the same trajectory here, yeah, even though Mississippi State's undefeated.
Right. No, absolutely. It's just, I don't know how much you value. Obviously, the committee is still holding firm to them being number 1, so they value what they've done to an extent. But if they lose, I don't know how that moves them. Like, I don't know how far that would drop them, if they would even drop out of the top 4. I mean, that's a really interesting question. And if they did drop out of the top 4, who moves in? And it would be, and how do we shuffle around? Does Oregon become number 1? Does Alabama become number 1? This is going to be an incredibly entertaining weekend, simply because of that one game and the prospect of what that could do to the entire college football rankings.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's I'm just ready for a botched Hail Mary 2 in Auburn, Georgia. That's what I'm looking forward to this weekend. Because whenever I see that game, and that's, for some reason, that's the game that stands out to me this weekend, because I keep thinking back to like last year and my utter disbelief at that game, even though that has absolutely nothing to do with our college football playoff implications.
When you're watching that Auburn A&M game last week, did you kind of feel like when they fumbled that ball, when they had the botch snap? Well, I meant the botch snap at the end of the game. With Nick Marshall not paying attention, the ball getting snapped while he's not paying attention, fumbled, etc. Did you kind of feel like Auburn was due one of those?
Oh, it was a total, and I mean this not as a diss to Auburn. It was a total karma move. That snap, the 2 fumbles in the last 3 minutes was completely karma, simply because you can't have plays like what happened in 2013 and in 2014, as I wrote about Saturday, with that Mississippi State play and Laquan Treadwell. Mm-hmm. You can't have those things keep going against you without something crazy ass happening against you. That's Auburn's crazy ass. They still could be due more. something crazy. Something still could be coming because do 2 fumbles in 3 minutes of one football game really make up for the prayer of Jordan Hare, the kick six, and what happened in Oxford? I'm not so sure. I think it cancels out one, maybe two, but Auburn I think is still a little overdrawn at the luck bank, and something's going to happen here. Whether it's this year, early next year, there's going to be one more fluky moment that goes against Auburn.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt they've been charmed. There is absolutely no doubt that
And
Auburn has absolutely been charmed.
if you're an Auburn fan and will not admit that Auburn has been charmed and that what happened against Texas A&M was simply regression to the mean, there's no hope for you. You're delusional. I'm sorry. Seriously, because you have to, if you're a rational fan of any type of any capacity, you have to recognize that.
I agree. Well, while we're on the subject, let's go ahead and start some picks. Let's go ahead and jump into some picks. And hey, we're talking about Auburn, Georgia. Let's go ahead and pick that game. Auburn at Georgia. Georgia with a -2.5 point advantage. It's at Georgia. It's between the hedges. There is some Waffle House on the line here. Waffle House is going to give whichever town wins free Waffle House, free hash browns, free waffles, free coffee. I'm kind of excited about that, as is Gus Malzahn, because he takes his wife to Waffle House after every big win. So after the Iron Bowl, where could you find Gus Malzahn? At his familiar table in the Waffle House. That's how they roll. Date night, she calls it. Christy Malzahn, date night, Waffle House, big time. That's huge. I'm glad they gave him that big contract to go spend $12.
Well, are you and Kyle going to go to Waffle House now for your next date night?
I'm now intrigued. I feel like I've missed out on the joys of late night Waffle House.
I'm thinking that Waffle House may be my next dating strategy here.
Yeah?
I might as well just try it and see what happens. I mean, if you can't win a woman over with Waffle House, you can't win a woman over doing a lot of things.
I think in the South you've got a couple places that are definitely go-tos: Waffle House, Zaxby's, and Crystal.
Well, and Bojangles.
And Bojangles. Is Zaxby's and Bojangles the same thing? Like, are they both like chicken places?
Yes. I will say I've never had Zaxby's, but I've had the Bojangles and it is delicious.
Really?
Yes.
There's the only random chicken finger place that I've been to is one in College Station called I'm gonna forget what it's called, and College Station people are gonna be upset. And it's simply just a chicken finger place, and now I'm gonna have to look it up. And but it was quite good. And so if Bojangles is just as good, we just got Popeyes here. We're very excited about that. We have KFC. We don't get into all these crazy. We don't have a White Castle. We don't have a Crystal. We don't have any of that stuff. We have McDonald's.
We have no Bojangles. The closest we'll see now. It was funny. Like the sign that Missouri became SEC was when Zaxby's and Regions Bank moved into Columbia, Missouri. That was like, because if you watch the SEC Network, you always see the Regions Bank commercials, and so as soon as Mizzou moved in the SEC, a Regions Bank moved in to Columbia, and then a Zaxby's opened up in Columbia. So now I think to make this all totally SEC, we just need a Belk department store somewhere.
Nice.
Somewhere in Missouri, because that Belk, it's Belk, the floating hoverball soccer ball on the SEC Network, and Regions Bank. Those are like the three. It seems like the three biggest advertisements.
I've just looked this up. Raising Cane's chicken fingers. That's what you get in College Station, Texas. Apparently.
Oh yeah, I drove by Raising Cane's when I was in Texas a couple weeks ago.
There you go. The Raising Cane's. They didn't have those, or at least they didn't have them in Dallas when I lived in Dallas, but quite good. I mean, if you just are looking for some chicken fingers and you don't want to go to like Dairy Queen or something, then you got yourself a Raising Cane's. I don't know how we digress from Waffle House to Zaxby's and Crystal and Raising Cane's, but Waffle House on the line. We still haven't picked this game. Go ahead. Auburn versus Georgia.
Oh, I'm gonna take Auburn. I know Gurley's back. Georgia is not as good as they looked against Kentucky, and they're not as bad as they did against Florida. Give me Auburn in a close game, but nothing fluky happens. It's just a close game that Auburn wins. How's that sound?
would tend to agree. I'm not sure that Georgia has the offensive horses to stay with Auburn. Similarly, I don't think they have the defense to stop Auburn from scoring. Auburn's going to be motivated in this game. It's going to, because it's not that far outside of the rankings. I think it's a long shot for them to get in because they have 2 losses, but they're definitely still in it for a New Year's Six bowl. And um, yeah, I like Auburn in this game just because of the way they've been playing on offense. And Georgia, while yes, Gurley's back and that running game is absolutely amazing, I'm still not sold on their passing game. And even though it's played a lot better in the past couple weeks, I'm looking for a little more consistency from them.
Yeah.
There you have it. All right, let's move over to the Big Ten. How about the big game of the week? Last week we had the big clash of Ohio State and Michigan State, and boy, did I pick that one wrong. Woo! Michigan
Yeah, I know.
State. Woo! Michigan State. Yikes, that was not good. But this week, Nebraska at Wisconsin. Wisconsin -6.5. This is the Fear Amir versus Melvin Gordon game. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Does the loser of this game get eliminated altogether from the Heisman Trophy discussion?
Yeah, and I don't think Amir has been. It's unfortunate, but I don't think he's in the Heisman.
He's been on the periphery.
Right, and then he got hurt, and I think that kind of almost knocked him out of the running. Whereas Melvin Gordon, if you read the Dr. Saturday Heisman post every week, which you should, Melvin Gordon's been my number 2 all week.
Oh, look at that self-promotion.
All season, Melvin Gordon's been my number 2. The number 1 has changed. Melvin Gordon is held firm. Hey, Wisconsin Badgers at Wisconsin Badgers loves me. They love the good things, the glowing things I say about Melvin Gordon. He's fantastic. He's steady, he's consistent. But against this defense, this is a top 20 rushing defense in Nebraska. They only allow 123 rushing yards per game. Melvin Gordon's averaging somewhere about 180 or so. So this is going to be a really interesting test, and this definitely is going to be his Heisman test.
Yeah, I like Wisconsin in this game. I think, much to Vincent Valentine's chagrin here, I think that Nebraska's going to be exposed for kind of having an easy schedule and that fluky win over McNeese State, even though I think they would have won that game in overtime or something. So I'm going to take Wisconsin here, and they will have the Freedom Trophy.
Yes, the Freedom Trophy. I like how Gary Anderson, Wisconsin's coach, was like, there's a trophy for this game. He didn't even know until about 5 days ago. And then he made jokes about how every game is soon going to have a trophy, and it's going to be like Little League where you just get one for participating. Like that. I thought that was funny. I also think Wisconsin wins this game. I think Wisconsin's kind of peaking at the right time. They've been playing well for a while, and they've been beating up the teams they needed to beat up. I think the passing game is coming along. It's maybe not quite where it needs to be, and they're relying a little heavily on Gordon, a little bit. But similarly, you could say the same thing about Nebraska, quite honestly, that they do the same thing. They rely on Amir, and their passing game is kind of mess. So I like Wisconsin. I maybe don't like the number as much. I think it might be a little bit closer. But, yeah, I'm going with Wisconsin on this one. So.
Agreement.
Of the week, game of the week, Mississippi State at Alabama. This line is cray-cray. Let's just go ahead and say that.
What is it? Since I have been double dutying with NASCAR and college football, I saw that the line had moved up from its original opening, but I have not kept close tabs on it. What is the line as we speak on Thursday morning?
It is 8. 8 against
8.5.
2 top 5 teams. 8. That is, and quite honestly, Mississippi State it deserves this. They deserve to be 8-point underdogs because of the way they've played their last 2 SEC games.
Oh, so does this mean you are taking Alabama -8?
I don't know that there is a team playing better right now than Alabama.
I'm taking Mississippi State +8 because they're getting over a touchdown.
Ooh, now I think Mississippi State's defense is not good. They allow 300 plus passing yards a game. If Amari Cooper can get 8 catches for more than 80 yards and a touchdown against that LSU's really, really, really good passing defense, I think he will bury Mississippi State. And this is at home, Blake Sims is going to be comfortable. He's not going to have as much anxiety as he maybe did in Death Valley. Yeldon's practicing. Yeldon is, for all accounts going to play this weekend. I have a hard time not taking Alabama here, especially knowing now what we know about the teams that Mississippi State beat. I'm just saying. I don't know that I love the number, but I could see this going totally sideways for Mississippi State.
I think Alabama wins, but I think it could be kind of close.
I think Mississippi State's passing defense is pretty atrocious. That's the thing. You look at the teams in the top 6. You look at their defenses. Well, let's take Baylor out of that. Let's go top 5. And you look at their defenses. Mississippi State is really the worst one of the group, right there next to Florida State. Those 2 defenses are atrocious, absolutely atrocious. Made up for because they both have star quarterbacks and and some nice complementary pieces. But
atrocious. Atrocious. I like how you've used the word so often.
Mississippi State, and these numbers are just off the top of my head. Mississippi State allows more than 300 passing yards, which is 120th in the nation in pass defense. 120th for the number 1 team in the country. That is absurd.
They just need to triple team Amari Cooper and they'll be fine. Because who else is there besides?
It doesn't matter. I feel like you could quadruple cover Amari Cooper and he'd still catch the ball the way he's playing lately. I mean, he is definitely making his Heisman push, and this will just put a little exclamation point. This will definitely book his ticket. He plays well in this game, it'll book his ticket to New York. I'm putting it down right now. He goes over 100 yards in this game, scores a touchdown or 2, he's booked. He's going to New York. He may not win the thing, but he'll be there. He'll get to go through all the pomp and circumstance of it. But I think this game definitely has the potential to go totally sideways on Mississippi State. That's all I have to say about that. All right, moving on. Let's go to the ACC, a game that is not including Florida State. That's right. We're not going to pick Florida State, Miami. Wah, wah. We're going to pick Clemson, Georgia Tech. Clemson -3 at Georgia Tech. What do you think of that one? It could be interesting.
Very well. I know what you're going to say, so I'm going to be contrary. I think Clemson is a different team with Deshaun Watson at quarterback. Cole Stout is the definition of meh at quarterback. So I'm going to take Deshaun Watson, and Clemson wins this football game.
Even with the layoff, even with the injury, all that time he spent on the bench, the rust, tired.
Yes. And I just want to point out, you realize how close I came to my big prediction of Clemson needing Deshaun Watson against Wake Forest? Do you realize how close that came to fruition?
Yes, you gotta love those weekly ACC games. They're always at least entertaining. Those Thursday night games, at least they're entertaining.
Always.
I like Georgia Tech. I'm gonna go with Georgia Tech. I don't know why. I have no affinity toward Georgia Tech. Just call it a feeling. Call it a gut feeling. I like Georgia Tech. I think Clemson has been living on the edge here for the last few weeks, and I know that's been without their star quarterback, but I like Georgia Tech, so I'm going to go with Georgia Tech. I'm going to go with Georgia Tech to control the game, control the clock with their option style, keep the ball out of Deshaun Watson's hands as much as possible, and basically just run this game into the ground and not give Clemson a chance to really get its offense going. I
just love that you quoted Black Eyed Peas and then Aerosmith, Living on the Edge, all within talking about this football game. So I had both those songs playing in my head. Thank you.
I'll do what I can. All right, last pick. Maybe. We might do a bonus pick, but last pick, Ohio State. Wow, Ohio State. Definitely some impressiveness last weekend against Michigan State that I don't know that anybody saw coming. Is it going to be enough to get them into the college football playoff? Probably not.
No.
But it's still fun to watch. Could get them into a New Year's Six bowl. Ohio State minus 12 at Minnesota. Now, you remember what I said earlier about this Minnesota team, TCU, kind of watching this game intently. Minnesota has been playing really well lately, but I don't think they've been playing Ohio State well. I like this game. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I'm still not sold on Ohio State secondary. That being said, this is a Minnesota team that did drop a game to Illinois, so wouldn't surprise me that they get run in this game. So I don't think Ohio State runs away with it at minus 12. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, a lot of fun, but I think maybe 10 points.
Yeah, I like Minnesota with the number. That said, I like Ohio State to win the football game.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ohio State is in the right place. It's in the right frame of mind. I know it's pretty excited coming off that Michigan State game, but I don't see this Ohio State team being one of those teams that gets way overconfident and way excited about a big win like that. That being said, this little stretch. Right. And but similarly, Minnesota's going through a pretty rough stretch here. Those last 3 games that they have, Ohio State, Nebraska, Wisconsin. I mean, you can't get a tougher stretch than that.
They have the antithesis of the TCU schedule.
Yeah, they really do. They have something that's similar to the Alabama schedule on a lesser scale. So, without the Western Carolina sprinkled in there. But I think Minnesota will play hard in this game. I think Minnesota will score in this game. I just don't think they come away with the victory. But that doesn't diminish how well Minnesota has played all season. And I think if they keep it close, I still think that adds some value for TCU.
Deal. I agree.
How about a bonus game? You up for a bonus game?
Oh, we need a bonus game music.
We have no music. We need to get sound effects, music, something. We need to do better. We need to be better. Next year, folks, this will be better. We promise. Promise this will be better. Maybe. Florida State, Miami U. The U. I'm not going to give you a number on this one. I'm not going to give you a number on this one. I'm going to let you go ahead and tell me what you think of this game. Go ahead and pick a number, and then I'll let you know what the number is.
Well, okay. I know what the number opened at, so I'm assuming by you saying, oh, I'm going to let you pick, that the number has moved significantly, because I know that it opened at 2.5 in favor of Florida State. So, that said, I think Florida State wins this football game by a touchdown. I'm really not sure why everybody thought Miami was going to have this as such an upset game, because remember, this was a Miami game that had to be packaged with another game for the express purpose of not having Florida State fans buy a bunch of tickets to this game. So the whole Miami's going to have a rockin' home crowd atmosphere, I think, is completely overrated, because I still think the Florida State fans are going to buy their own tickets. I think I saw somewhere on a secondhand ticket site that tickets for this game were $100, and then tickets for Miami's last home game, were $4. So, give me Florida State by a touchdown. What is the line right now?
The line's only 3. It didn't move that much. The line.
So it didn't move. Okay, I'll take Florida State minus the points.
Yeah, I don't see the world that everybody else is living in where this is some big time upset game. I mean, Miami's won 3 straight. Woo! But they've beaten Cincinnati, Virginia Tech, and North Carolina. I mean, let's control our emotions here. I think Al Golden has done some fantastic turnaround with this team, because before those 3 wins, this was a 3-3 team. It did beat Duke, so it did have that going for them, but it got run by Louisville on Louisville's season opener. Got handled by Nebraska, got beat by Georgia Tech. So it's beaten the bottom feeders of its schedule pretty easily. Florida State, no. I just don't, and there will be no hostile environment. I mean, every Saturday we see a picture of Miami being totally empty. And I'm sure there will be lots of fans there, but like you said, I'm sure there will be Florida State fans. I'm not buying this as Florida State's trap game or anything like that. Florida State runs away with this thing. I don't even say a touchdown. I say runs away. Bye bye. Gone. Especially since this is kind of a rivalry game. I am interested to see how Duke Johnson plays in this game, though. I think he could have a big game.
Florida State's defense is not nearly as good as it once was.
Right.
But or once was last year.
Right.
Yeah, no, Florida State wins this game. Just like we will eat crow, not literally. We will eat crow next week if Miami wins. But let's just stop worrying about it.
Yeah, I'm not buying Brad Kaya having some sort of epiphany at quarterback as a freshman quarterback in this game.
And I also think Brad Kaya is a good quarterback. It's potentially a very, very good college quarterback. But Brad Kaya has much more name recognition because his mom was Felicia in the Friday movies than he would otherwise.
Yes, I would agree. I mean, Duke Johnson runs that team. You shut down Duke Johnson, we're not having any more conversations about Miami doing anything. So,
right.
Yeah, I'm not even seeing this as a game. But that being said, I said the same thing about Michigan State and Ohio State. So, who knows? Who knows? All right, buy and sell. This is our favorite fun little segment where we take something that is trending this week and we decide whether it's a lasting trend or a one-hit wonder. Let's start with the college football playoff because you know what? Why not? Because that's all we're talking about.
I am buying that the college football playoff exists.
Yes, the college football playoff does exist. But will one conference outside of the SEC get multiple teams into the college football playoff? That would require, let me go ahead and sort this all out for you. That would likely require Mississippi State to lose twice and Alabama to lose to Auburn. Because if Mississippi State loses twice, they're probably going to lose to Alabama. So Alabama would have to lose to Auburn to get two other teams from a different conference that is not the SEC into the college football playoff. Buy or sell that that's going to happen.
Sell, because I think at this point the only chance that's going to happen is a Baylor TCU moment, and I don't think that happens.
Yeah, I think that is the best opportunity for it is Baylor TCU because I think both of those teams will finish 11-1. The fact that they don't have a conference title game will leave them at 11-1. But the only other sticky thing that I see could be Arizona State, Oregon, and whether one of those two teams gets a little bit more credit for losing to the other.
I don't think so. I don't think so because I think both of those teams would have to be in the Final Four right now because you're not going to move up after a loss, and I just simply don't see Arizona State making that jump into the top four before the time the Pac-12 title game is played.
I would agree. I'm also selling this. I think it's too difficult with the way the rankings are stacked up. Baylor TCU does have the best chance, and I certainly think it's possible that it could happen, but I mean, you would really need an absolute tanking by the SEC for that to happen, for the SEC to be totally, and in the scenario we're painting, the SEC would be totally shut out of the college football playoff, and I think you would need an absolute tank for that to happen, and I don't see it coming.
Yeah.
All right. So let's stick with the college football playoff. Marshall continues to be the best, worst, undefeated team in the country. Nobody loves Marshall. But by the end of the year, if Marshall continues to stay undefeated, will Marshall finally crack the top 25? Buy or sell?
They will get pity top 25 because I think at this point they have to be in a New Year's Day bowl because I mean they're going to keep ranking until they get to a non-Power 5 team, and I think it's Marshall or bust at this point. So unless I don't know, I can't see anybody from the AAC doing it. So Marshall it is, and I think they'll finish like 25th.
I think they'll give more love to Colorado State. Colorado State, better schedule, better body of work.
Oh, you're being just a local homer.
Better. Indeed.
Local homer.
Yes, I'm sorry, Marshall, Huntington, West Virginia. I'm sorry, but yes, I'm going with Fort Collins, Colorado on this. Better schedule, better teams that they've had to play, better teams they've had to beat. Um, haven't struggled with teams like Florida Atlantic, stuff like that. I think that if any team is going to get grabbed, any of those, and yes, one non-Power 5 team will get grabbed for a New Year's Day Bowl, and I think if any of them get grabbed, it's either going to be East Carolina or Colorado State, and I actually like Colorado State more than East Carolina.
Rice, UAB, Western Kentucky is how Marshall finishes.
Ugh.
Colorado State finishes New Mexico, Air Force.
Air Force is very good. New Mexico, meh.
I guess we talked about that Air Force game previously about how tasty it is. So
Yeah, it's definitely a fun one. All right, last buy or sell. This is going to be a good one. Stanford. Stanford, 5 wins right now. 3 games remaining. Does Stanford get into a bowl game? Buy or sell Stanford getting bowl eligible?
see, this is you. Everybody says, "Oh, Stanford's 5-4. They're gonna make the a bowl," and you go, "Well, let's look at their schedule. It's not necessarily as easy as you think it is. I think Stanford gets to 6-6, but that's it because Stanford has Utah, California, and UCLA. I'm gonna say Utah wins this weekend. Stanford beats Cal in the big game and then loses to UCLA.
That's exactly how I see it working out, although it wouldn't surprise me one bit to see Cal beat them because it's at Cal.
That's right. That's the thing. You can make an argument for 8-4 for Stanford just as easily as you can make an argument for 5-7.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and join you on the buying of Stanford making a bowl at 6-6. But it would not surprise me one bit if Cal beat them. And I don't think they beat Utah, and I don't think they beat UCLA. Playing Utah at night at Utah is a tough place to play. It is. It's just a tough place to play. You've got altitude.
No, it's at Stanford.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. It's at Stanford, so forget it. Yeah, I'll just be over here. But either way, Utah's defense is good. Stanford's offense is not. Utah's offense does enough with Devontae Booker at running back. Yeah, I don't see them losing. I don't see Utah losing that game. Cal game, you never know what you're going to get with Cal. You never know what you're going to get with Jeff Goff. That game at Cal, that one I know. They are at Cal. And then they play at UCLA to end the season. So it's going to be dicey. It's going to be close. But I'm going to go with you and say that they finish 6-6 just to squeak into a bowl game. Probably the Foster Farms Bowl.
Damn it, I was going to make that Foster Farms Bowl joke too. Son of a...
Foster Farms Bowl,
which
everybody.
is actually the Foster Farms Bowl, people, just in case you're wondering, is the former Fight Hunger Bowl. So we have fought hunger successfully enough to name the bowl after a farm.
That's right. It was the Kraft Fight Hunger Bowl.
Yes.
Now we're Foster Farming it. And if you don't know what Foster Farms is, that's mostly a California thing. They have some of it in Colorado. It's chicken. Foster Farms is chicken.
We went to on Wednesday night. We went to Chicken Kitchen.
You know what? This whole conversation, this whole podcast is revolved around chicken. Somehow
it really
we just keep coming back to chicken. I don't know what that is.
We started with chicken, we ended with chicken. This is it's finger licking chicken something. So all right.
All right.
And you know what? This is a very good segue into us not being a chicken and making our big prediction of the weekend. Boom! Yes. Look at that.
That was nice. That was a nice little. I see what you did there. That was nice. All right, big prediction for the weekend. Shall I go first?
If you would like, you have volunteered, and you apparently have something that you very much would like to exclaim. So it is all yours.
Our colleague Samuel Cooper is not going to be so happy with me about this one, but Owls. Temple Owls will take down Penn State this weekend. Temple with the big win over Penn State. No one sees it coming, but nobody saw them beating up ECU either. Temple, big win. The battle of the state of Pennsylvania.
Speaking of ECU, Cincinnati beats the Pirates. It's at home, although I don't know where it's at. I mean, Cincinnati either plays at the Bengals stadium or at their own stadium. They can't decide. They might as well just keep playing at their own stadium because when they play at Paul Brown Stadium, it's never full. I mean, it looks sad. Speaking of looking sad, did you see the crowd at that Bowling Green game Wednesday night?
Yes, I did.
Oh
But
my
that's
god.
Maction. That's Maction for you.
It was just freezing cold action, and it was so depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So I'll say that, and then you know, I think I think I was wrong about this last week, so I'll probably be wrong about it again. I think Oregon State gives Arizona State a game. I think Arizona State wins, but I think Oregon State could have some Corvallis magic there and just keep it close. And don't be shocked. I'm just making big predictions like crazy.
Apparently.
Don't be shocked if the one, the only Brett Bielema gets his first SEC win this weekend.
Oh, fun. Fun, fun, fun. I would like to see that. According to Bert, they haven't deserved one. They haven't made the plays necessary to deserve a win.
As Missouri alums here, we're just trying to avoid the disastrous likelihood that Arkansas's first SEC win would be at Missouri on the day after Thanksgiving.
Well, note that I said LSU's passing defense, not its rushing defense, and Arkansas is not a passing team; it's a rushing team. So this could be kind of interesting, could be kind of dicey, could be kind of fun. I think that one is definitely has the potential to be a good game, and I'm putting once again out there good vibes for SMU. Come on, SMU, South Florida, at home. Come on, SMU.
Yeah, this is
You're so close.
and
They
they're
were so close.
the thing is they are hosting a 3-6 South Florida team, and they are still double-digit underdogs.
If Kansas can do it, SMU, you can do it too. I believe in you, SMU.
Okay, honestly, if there was ever a time for a crap team to tear down the goalposts, it's SMU Saturday night versus instead of Kansas over Iowa State.
Yeah, that would be exactly the same kind of situation right there.
Please, SMU,
Tear down the goalposts, guys.
Mr. SMU, tear down those goalposts.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! I am I'm excited for that. I'm sending out good vibes to you.
Do you know
SMU.
what the just real quick before we end, because I think we have to end on a note like this. Do you know what the average score of an SMU game has been this year?
No, I don't, but I'm sure it's in the
All right,
20s.
guess what the average score of an SMU game is this year.
I would say like the average score or the average margin of victory.
The
Or
average
margin of
score, like
defeat.
what is they're 0-8, so what is the average score of those 8 games?
I would say probably something like 32-6.
Oh God, you are so wrong.
Really?
46.8 to 9.6.
Hey, well, yeah. Come on, SMU.
And that is with last week's 38-28 loss.
I believe, SMU. I believe. And hey, don't be surprised, folks. We talked about Marshall. Don't be surprised to see the Rice Owls take them down. Don't be surprised. That could be a lot of fun. Another good game. Rice Owls. Rice are a second half team. I'm just going to tell you that right now, too. So don't get discouraged in the first half. Rice is a second half team. Going to come back on Marshall. So if you like betting half lines,
Well, carbs are usually it's very it's very not typical of carbs. They're usually very fast digesting.
Indeed. Indeed. I see what you did there. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank you for listening to the Dr. Saturday podcast. Hopefully, we enriched your college football experience as you head into these final weeks of the college football season. Mississippi State, Alabama, big game this week. We'll wrap it all up next week, have some new rankings and some new fun stuff to talk about, probably some new controversy. For Nick Bromberg, I'm Graham Watson. Have a great rest of your week, and go team.
Booyakasha.
Awesome. Good. With 6 minutes to spare because Kyle was leaving at 9:30.
Oh, perfect. I heard. Well, which kid did I hear?